Gareth, welcome. Thanks for bringing some time to come and talk to us about working with Stratus Industries. If you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of info about Pallite and what you guys are all about.
Yeah, sure. So you may tell from the accent that we're a UK-based business. We're all about innovation with sustainable products, primarily in the logistical arena. So in the UK, we started out making pallets made from a honeycomb board, and from there we continue to evolve the product mix to meet the needs of our clients into things like shipping crates and other sort of like protective packaging type applications. The greatest success we've had is when we developed a storage solution. So we manufacture. You help us manufacture what we call our PICS storage units, which is a range of different rated shelving systems that are primarily used in warehousing applications, e-commerce, really to help our clients maximize their space and efficiency.
Perfect. If you want to give a little bit of info as to what led Pallite to look for sourcing and production in North America.
Yeah, of course. So I say, I mean, we were a relatively small UK-based business. Our products certainly seemed to hit a chord with people, and we were beginning to see that we were getting inquiries and demand from much further afield. Our view was that the American market was a substantial market for us. Our product was a really good fit with the American market. We felt that strongly. But of course, we're a small UK business with a team that works on multiple projects constantly and is always busy and trying to get things done. So we knew that we needed to try and find a partner here in America that could help us, one, set up a manufacturing operation, but also to find a way around kind of the American rules, regulations, systems, just ways of doing business.
Slightly different operation here than it is in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And in terms of the search, I mean, we started out with it was all a bit of an internet-based search initially. I mean, bear in mind we were in COVID as well at the time, so trying to expand the business overseas when everybody was kind of locked up in their houses was not the easiest thing to do. So we started that kind of online search. We kind of reached out to a few businesses that we came across as we were sort of like investigating the potential for contract manufacturing partners here, and that led us to having that kind of those initial conversations with yourself and Lyle.
Yeah.
And I think really early on we just kind of clicked. There was a really good fit. I think you understood what we were trying to do. That was fairly clear. I think it was just that can-do attitude. It was, we can make this happen, and we felt really confident. I think that we were going to be in good hands. Certainly, I think the relationship and the personalities helped. But it took a while because we had to get, back in November 2021 when the borders opened. I think I jumped on one of the first flights out of the UK and came over to see you guys, and we kind of hammered out.
Yeah,
fairly quickly. We kind of hammered out the basis of that agreement.
From a lot of conversation to a relatively quick agreement and then a quick roll into production.
Well, it was incredible, really, wasn't it? If you think about the story and the timeline, I mean, it was mid-November. I mean, 3 years ago, almost from now, mid-November, 2021. By March, we had equipment on the ground. There was your guys, our team, working together to get that equipment installed, get everything up and running, and it was not an easy period of time. Not from you guys, but because we had so many issues with some of the raw material that we were sourcing, and it was all hands on deck.
Raw material, and equipment you guys had never used before.
It was
a lot of unusual circumstances.
It was, and I think it's a testament, to how well we worked together. That by April we were shipping product. So from November first meeting to then getting equipment installed, going through that pain barrier that we went through in terms of getting everything set up, to having product actually out with our customers in April is pretty impressive.
It is impressive. I've forgotten that it was that short of a window.
It was. It felt like a long time because of the hours that went in. I think the work effort from a lot of people was immense.
Nice. You want to dig into the impact of having the entire Stratus team behind you, as opposed to not necessarily being a customer, but more being a partnership?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was. I mean, just talking about that whole commissioning process. I mean, it was. We had our operations director here. We had our CEO over here. That I was over here. But from your team, you had the full backing of all your engineering team, and yourself and Lyle put a lot of hours in. I mean, I still recall working, on a Sunday trying to cut product that we had to get to a trade show the next day, and we were working together to try and do that. So, I think it was a real team effort, and that was really clear. But it didn't stop there. We had an idea of we had a vague idea of what we thought the market demand for our product was, and an idea in terms of our business planning, how quickly we would grow, but we just smashed that out of the park in the early stages. The demand that came on stream, from the outset, nobody expected it.
Yeah.
And I think the way that you coped with that in terms of our ability to flex with what we had initially, and get, and really maximize our output through that period, that through to that decision that we took, how many months in were we? I mean, we barely set up when we were taking a call that said we're out of space.
Yeah.
We need to expand our operation.
Yeah, I think we were 9 months in.
Yeah, if that. So within that short space of time, we were then talking about new equipment, talking about a new site. We were talking about, we could never have done that without, your networks, your connections, your ability to help us get into that space. So, within, as you say, within a few months, we'd relocated to a new site, much bigger site, a standalone site, but still have that support, moving all the equipment, installing even more equipment, ramping up our capacity, and it was seamless. We were still operating through that whole period while we were ramping up that demand. It was incredible.
So in the initial offset of our agreement, the plan was that we were going to have one production line set up and running it less than full time. And by the end of commissioning the first machine, we'd already worked on adding a second line, going full time on both lines, and adding a second shift. I want to just touch base on a little bit of the chaos and growth on that side of things from your point of view, how we reacted and how you guys were able to ramp up incredibly fast in a new market.
It was, I remember that those first meetings, back in November 21, and we came out, and what we were envisaging was something that we didn't know, we didn't understand. We were committed to setting up one production line, but flexibility was key to us at the time. We didn't know whether we were going to have to man that for a few hours a day or 24 hours a day. So that the original discussions were based around that. And then, of course, in the interim period, having flown over and then gone back home, we started to make the announcements that we were entering the US market. And we were kind of blown away a little bit, and we picked up some fairly significant orders. And we knew right at that point that what we'd started talking about we were already way beyond that. And I think we had obviously the one production line with the new equipment being shipped in. We'd recently decommissioned some equipment in the UK as we expanded our operation over there, and we took the call to ship that equipment out here as to support. So, and again, working with you, because that was more space, how would we accommodate that? We talked about one production line and flexible labor, and we're talking about now we need two production lines, and we're going to need to be pretty much manning that round the clock initially and that was the precursor again to making that second stage again, wasn't it? Within a few months, we said we've outgrown that. We now need a bigger building and more production
add
equipment,
a third production line.
It's funny, isn't it, reflecting on that now, looking back, how
it was like, the worry of how small could we make it and still be like functional for both of us, into growing into what is more or less become a standalone operation and a standalone building with dedicated team.
And that was done in a really short space of time. And when you reflect on it, from that first meeting through within 10 months of that first meeting, not only did we set up the first production line, had to take a call on the second production line and the shift patterns, to finding a new bigger building and commissioning new equipment and basically quadrupling in size, I think, within the first few months of operation. I think that's about right. We were pretty much quadrupling in size.
It's hard to, you go back and remember, it was all just a bit of a chaotic blur for the first full year of making all those changes to getting to where we are now.
It was. I mean, it's incredible. It was incredible how we did it. Sometimes you have to go back, I think, and sort of celebrate that kind of success. But it was such a whirlwind. We were all,
it was a good adventure.
It was a good adventure. Yeah.
As far as recommendations, how would you describe Stratus Industries to other international potential customers that are looking for partnerships in North America?
For us to do what we've done in the US market so far has only come about because, I guess, the support that you've given us along the way, from making introductions to, just getting simple things done sometimes, from accounting services to legal services to, just understanding sometimes the vagaries of sales tax, a whole host of things that, we don't imagine. There's always been that advice, and if you don't know the answer, you can usually point us towards people who can help us with that answer, and that's really, really invaluable.
When you were making the final decision as far as who to choose in North America to do work for you guys, what kind of led you to having Stratus be the final decision?
We looked at kind of joint venture arrangements. We looked at whether things like licensing or other things would actually work for us. And all the time we were coming back to the point that we needed to have some control over our product and our intellectual property and certainly the quality around our product. We felt that we were the best people to market and sell the product, so we needed somebody who was going to help us through the operational side of things. So I think what we actually developed between ourselves is something quite unique. We've got an interesting way that we've kind of structured things, from equipment leasing of site to things, and it's been really creative, and I think that's been really, really positive. I think the fact that we were able to shape between ourselves something that was really kind of worked for us, hybrid kind of arrangement. And I think that's worked really well for you guys as well. So it's been a good.
It's definitely a unique contract manufacturing joint venture partnership level agreement where there's so many interwoven pieces that it's definitely a non-traditional relationship, but functions successfully.
It functions very successfully. Yeah, it's very good.
Well, Gareth, I just want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of the day to come and chat with us about reflect on the last few years of operations together. We look forward to the next number of years working together and continuing to grow with you guys and the rest of the Pallite team. So thanks for being here.
No, absolute pleasure, Tom. Thank you for asking me. It's been good, really good. I think, I guess in summing up, we wouldn't have been able to do this without your support. So I think if there's anybody out there who, thinking about, trying to branch out and establish themselves in the US market, I think they should probably come and have a chat with you guys.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Good to see you.